Hello there, survivors, and welcome back to ARK Survival Ascended. Today I'm going to show you how to build this medieval guard post using the Castle Keeps and Forts mod. So if you're looking for a cool base, this definitely is one of my favorite buildings so far. It's quite big, consisting out of a few different parts, bridged over by a nice hanging bridge, which would be a really cool guard post or entrance to your medieval town. As always, if you enjoy seeing these videos and you want to see more of them, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and feel free to leave a comment down below with your suggestions for other builds. So to start the guard post, I've already lined up a few pillars to kind of line out what I want to do. So starting right here on the corner, we have a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 by 3, and then a pillar on these corners. Then we have a gap of 5 again before the next pillar. That's a 3 by 3 here, and then we kind of have these pillars that are in the middle of the second foundation from the other square. So let's start here on this side of the gap with making these two high, and we're going to make some custom walls here by using a lot of the pillars and the half pillars to create some cool custom designs that will overlap into the wall, because I kind of want to have some of the wooden beams that we see in the other tiers, but then I want to use the keep walls so we have the stone texture in there instead. I think that's going to make for a nice and unique look, and we're just going to play around with some unique designs in there. So we'll start with this at the bottom, then we'll go up by full pillars, and we'll have some half pillars on the top once again, and that should allow us to get a pretty fun design going. Could just have those pillars, but I think I want to try and get as much as possible in here. So first in the middle, I think we'll make a little point like this, and then maybe from this corner we'll try and get the beam going all the way down to the other corner if it allows me. Sometimes working with these snap points can be a bit tricky because there's so many different snap points, which is of course amazing to see, but yeah, it takes a little bit getting used to. But yeah, I think if we have these beams coming down, that should look quite nice indeed. And maybe we have a pillar going across over here. That looks quite nice. Maybe we just continue that all the way to the end. Of course, we'll need to pick the right snap points, and there we go. I think that is a pretty decent wall. So now the idea is to just kind of fill this wall in with the keep tier, so the stone walls. Because yeah, I think that will give us a quite cool effect, blending in a bit better with the rest of the village so far that I've got going on, but still getting that stone look, so it's stronger and supported than just having more of the village there or the settler tier even. So we'll continue those custom designs over here as well. I think I want to bring in some windows on these sides here, so I think that's where we want to have a window on top of it. For now, we'll get these beams going across like this, and then another little pillar, and then the door will be somewhere over here, I think. Or maybe not. Should we have a door down this street? Maybe not. Maybe we'll have a door on the other side and on the side of the building instead. That might make more sense, but we'll mirror what we have on the other side over here for now. So we'll have that little bit going where we'll have a window on top of it, and then we'll continue this pillar all the way to the other side, and we'll get one here as well, and then have one of these smaller pillars once again. I think we'll use these windows, these very small ones, because I don't want it to look too churchy here, or too castle-y. So I think the full window will be the one. I think that will work, because then it kind of will just blend in instead of being too, maybe, you know, too fancy for what this build is going to be, because the rest of them are pretty fancy. So yeah, let's place one of those above each of these little sections we've created, and then I guess it's time to fill out the rest of the wall as well. And we'll just use some half pillars here across this little window to kind of board it in. I think that looks quite nice. And then for the rest of the design, we'll have these pillars going up. We will have one of these, I guess. We can then have this. This does not line up. But we could have the other steepness. Just like this. We'll mirror this on the other side, of course. So we'll do the exact same thing over here. I think that makes sense. And then we'll have these going up even further. Just like that as well. That seems reasonable. There we go. And then we'll have this pillar going all the way up again as well. And then a little half pillar to make sure that it's the right height. And same over there. I think that's a pretty decent wall. Maybe we can still have these beams coming across. There we go. Just like that. And then of course we'll need the little half pillars to snap from. But yeah, I think that makes for a pretty nice and interesting wall design. So then we can start filling these in as well. So we'll have some walls over here. Some walls over there. And just filling in these newly created sections. We have a nice pattern with the beams, I think. I like the way this is turning out so far. Because it is adding a little bit more of the wood back into the stone tier as well, which is quite cool. Quite nice and yeah, kind of blends it a little bit closer to the other village structures, I'd say. There we go. So that's another section done with some nice windows to look out from, to keep guard from maybe. And then I guess this would be where the next floor starts. So we would have a little overhang going on around this part as well, to kind of, yeah, start the next phase of the build. We can do the same here too. And then I guess this is where the bridge would start from one building to the other. So we probably want to have some nice support, but I might actually want to make this out of quarter ceilings for the extra snap points. So we can just have a bunch more of them. So we can just fill these in, and then there should be a few more to use. There we go. We can have a few like this. Then have some of the other ones. I like to kind of change them back and forth between these two arches, just so that it looks a little bit weathered on some of them and the other ones look a little bit nicer. I think that's always a good look. And then I guess this is where the little bridge will start coming across. And then I suppose the last ones we want to make out of quarter ceilings again, just for the same reason, so that we can mirror kind of the supports on this side as well. I'm not sure why I'm starting with this land bridge, but that's fine. You know, we'll need it. We'll need it. There we go. So yeah, that will kind of bridge this part. And then I do plan on, of course, having these supports going everywhere. We will have a little custom thing on the edge of the bridge. So for now, we'll just add in a few of these. And then, yeah, we can kind of get an idea of what it will look like with all these arches in place. There we go. Filling in this side as well. Should we fill those in? No, probably not. That's going to be the custom design. So we'll have the big arches there as well. Actually, this one needs to go. There we go. Yeah, because we're gonna do something special as the supports of this one, so we want to keep the edges of the bridge free for now. But yeah, that's already a nice little bridge. We'll probably have some kind of supports at the side to work from, but just need to figure out what kind of pattern we can get to make something nice. Because basically what I want to try and do is underneath this edge of the bridge, I want to kind of build a custom like support system, which will then look quite nice, I think. So we will just kind of go around like this, adding in the beams for now. I think we want to have one there and another one there. Yeah, let's go with that for now. There we go, because then we can have these little pillars sticking out, and that's basically going to help us form some kind of big support beam from one side to the other. So we'll have all these separate sections, and I guess we can have the beams going from one side to the other side to kind of fill this all in as well. I think that's probably a good call. There we go. And one more. Sometimes getting these snap points is a little bit tricky, but once we get it, there we go. It's gonna look nice. So yeah, and then we can have some big beams for these last two gaps, and that kind of fills it all in. And then I guess we want to have some more supports in there, of course, to really get that look going. But yeah, I think that's gonna look really, really nice this way. We can even have the smaller ones in the middle too, to kind of add that little bit of extra details in there to really make it look nice and supported. Same thing over here. You can kind of continue that all the way. There we go. Yeah, that looks quite nice. That looks quite good in my opinion. Then I guess we'll have to do the same thing here on the other side as well. Just kind of mirroring that the same exact way. And then after that, we kind of only need to add in some extra support for these. So we'll add in the arches again on both sides, of course. And I think if we can get the right snap points, that should look quite nice overall. And should serve as proper cool supports for this little bridge connecting the two buildings, and both serving as an entrance to the little village as well, I think. Again, if I can get these snap points to work. There I saw it. I think I saw it. There we go. There we go. That's the one. And then just the last little bit might have to be on the other side. I think I saw it. Oh, we had it. Oh. Oh no, I had it again. Oh, there we go. There we go. All right, we got the full support from one side to the other side for the little bridge. Not sure why I got distracted by the bridge already, because we still have the building to finish and the other building to do as well. But at least we have cool supports for the bridge. So we have this first section looking nice, and then all we need to do is kind of get supports going for this section, and probably also add in the doors here. So let's see, we probably, yeah, we'll have a door here on this side for sure. If we can get it to snap in the right way. There we go, that's the one we want. So we want a little entrance there. Do we do one on the other side? We could, although we also have this side of the building which might be more interesting. So maybe we don't do it here, but we do it on this side instead, and maybe change the shape of the door as well, so that it's almost like a little side entrance here, maybe, you know, just a different doors and different sides, because it's a medieval build, so we want to have a little bit of the asymmetry to make it's just more interesting to look at instead of everything being the same. Okay, so now we'll just focus on getting these beams back in place and making some interesting looking designs that look like they're supporting the build, and also just breaking up the stone walls that we place. There we go. That's looking quite nice, let's say. So that's going to be a little entrance, and then here we probably want to use the half pillars to get the right snap points. And I guess we could add a little window above this again. That would be quite nice, because then we also have some windows on this side, which I guess works. There we go. Yeah, that looks nice. Let's go fill in that wall. And then I guess we can kind of continue this section similar to what we did on the other side, and then have some of these beams in between again to kind of support this all. So we'll have this beam going that way, and then not quite sure what we'll do in the middle, but we'll figure something out and kind of just fill all these sections in until they look nice and yeah, have a little bit of the stone going on. I think this might actually already work, because I don't know if we want to overdo it. We could add in maybe this. Maybe that's enough. That should definitely work, and we'll have a pillar there. Yeah, that's a decent section, right? And then we can fill in all the stone walls, and that's one more section that is done, or at least almost done. There we go. That looks quite nice. We probably want to add in pillars here at the bottom too, and then we'll have some half ones for some of these. There we go. So that looks nice. And then of course at the entrance we probably want to have these go through all the way. And yeah, that looks quite nice. I kind of like the way this wall's turned out. It's kind of what the village tier looks like, but then we have the stone instead of the normal kind of background. So we'll have to do something similar on this side with this door as we did with the other door. A little bit of the support beams like so. And then I guess we need some half pillars to get some different snap points. So we're gonna have to delete or replace these pillars on the corner, if it lets me. There we go. So we want to have a half pillar there, just so that we have some extra snap points to work with. And we'll do the same thing over here. Probably want to have the big pillar in the middle and then another half pillar at the top, actually. Might have to do the same for this, because then we can do a similar design as we did on the other side, I think, which works pretty well. So we can have these beams going across there and there, just like that, and then probably get those big beams going all the way from the top again. So bringing these in, there we go, other side as well, and bring them all the way back down below. There we go. That looks quite nice. Fill in the top layers here all the way around. Yeah, I like the look of that. So we've got the two entrances. Actually, we need to maybe also add in a little staircase for this side, so that we don't forget about that, and also add in the doors so that we have these complete, and then we can slowly finish the other side and move on to the top of this building. And of course we have the bridge, we have the other building. So yeah, we'll be busy for a little bit, but it's gonna hopefully be quite a cool guard post in the end. There we go. We'll add the little staircase so you can enter through there. And then if we enter 4 doors, There we go. This way and that way. Then we'll have these two walls completed. And then we only have this little section here over on this side, which, I mean, it's not exactly going to mirror the other side because it is quite a different section. So we might want to just add a window in the middle here. I think that would be nice. So it's just lined up in the middle. I think that makes more sense than lining it up with the other side. And then we can just get this design going on like this on the other side as well. And then having these go back up all the way. Then we'll have one of these in the middle. And we kind of want to have those like this maybe. And then we still kind of want to have the beams going from one side to the other. There we go. That works. And then we should just be able to fill it all in. So we want to make sure that we add the window and then just fill in the entire wall until it's done. From one side to the other. Shouldn't be too difficult for this one to be filled in. There we go. And then just the last one in here. And we have the foundation done. So that's the first layer. Then we can continue these ceilings all the way around, because that will be the little overhang that we'll use for the next floor. There we go. All the way until we go back round. That looks nice. And of course, we'll be adding in the support beams at the bottom. And I like to do that both with the villager ones and then with the settler ones to make some look weathered, as I have done with most of my builds, all of my builds, I think. Just really think that looks quite nice. This, however, does not need to be there. I will never stop misplacing things, I guess. And we'll just continue these little archways all the way through from this side to the other. There we go. And then, of course, filling in the gaps with the other variant. Just like this. And we'll go all the way around until... yeah. Till we've made it. There we go. That looks quite nice. Yeah, I like that. And then we can start focusing on the next layer of the build, of course, which is gonna probably just start out with having some beams going across the side, just to kind of support this layer a little bit more. And then we can start building the skeleton, I guess, again, and then start these actual builds. So I've got an interesting idea to kind of still divide this top section up in different parts. So it's not going to be one big house. It's going to have kind of two sections. And then, of course, it's going to be connected to this bridge, which goes to the other building, which is another building. I don't know which build would serve for what. I'm not really bothered with the interiors yet until I've got the deco mod that I'm waiting for, which might be out by the time you're watching this. I don't know. I really hope it's coming out soon, but yeah, for now, we'll focus on these beams and getting some decent builds in, and then we'll have, I guess, a big interior design spree at some point. There we go. That's the start of it. That looks quite nice. And then we'll have to start with the actual top layer. Yeah. So we'll start with just adding in some pillars here on the corners. I think going up by 2 will definitely work. And we'll have to start dividing these sections. So these are just the normal corners. We'll probably also have these pillars here where the entrance to the bridge is. But as I said, I kind of want to divide these different sections. So we don't want this big one square. We will also want a fireplace at some point, so we might as well add that in already, so we kind of know where that's going to be. And it's already being powered, so this is going to be a perfect showcase that the smoke will automatically go to the top of it every time. And then we we'll eventually figure out how it will go all the way up. But yeah, I think that's the right place for it, I think. And then we can divide this section. So we don't want one big building. We kind of want to divide it up. And I think it's going to be after 2 full beams. And then we have 3, I think, for the other section. So we'll bring this up. So that's the dividing line. But we also want to make sure that these are not the same height. So I think this section we're going to make a half pillar higher. I think that should be enough difference. Because, of course, I don't want to go too crazy or too big of a difference. But I think this could really work. And then we will add in some beams. Just like this. All the way around. As well as this way over here. And as I said, we kind of just want to make the skeleton first so that we have a rough idea of what we're going to do. And then we'll focus on one part and then the other part of the building. But I think, yeah, if we build this up as its own little building with its own little roof, I think it's going to look quite nice in the end. Just bringing some extra layers into this build rather than just being one big roof and, you know, having to struggle to make it interesting. I think this will work. Oh, we're in a tree. But yeah, I guess we can start kind of filling in these different segments, making them look more interesting. Let's see. What do we want to do? I think I do want to start also with a little settler wood at the bottom of these layers. Kind of to stay with the theme that we've used for a lot of the village. And then we can have windows or whatever on top. Probably we'll have a little section like this. And then we probably want to have a window in the middle of that. There we go. Do we go for this one? We could have a normal, just small window like this. That would work, right? Would that work? Maybe, I don't know. I kind of like all the big windows that we have. So maybe this, the narrow window, that's always a good one. I think that fits quite nicely. And we'll do that on the other side as well. We can kind of mirror the same thing here. I think that works. There we go. Kind of looking into the street there. And then we just need to fill in this little gap at the top. So I think we'll go with the blank ones in the corners. And then we'll have the little pattern above the window. I think that is quite nice indeed. There we go. Then these walls, I guess, we don't really need to do much because they're going to be facing the bridge. So I think we just want to fill them in completely. And then the middle section, I think it's easier to wait until we actually build the bridge, because then we exactly know which gaps to fill and everything. So I think for now we'll leave it at that. And then of course the other side is the inside of the building. Now the roof, I think we can do it quite simply with these normal roofs. And then slowly we still want to make it steeper. So we still want to make it curve slightly. And of course we want to have these overhangs on the side. I think we want these less steep so that they also curve a little bit outward. I think that's a nice little touch. And then from here, we probably just want to go straight into the steep ones and bring the steep ones all the way to the top. So there's going to be quite a bit of height in this one. But if it's the guard post, like the main garrison of the village, I think it makes sense to have it be quite a big building, you know, housing a lot of soldiers, I suppose. We'll have those little overhangs, the rakes everywhere, every height. There we go. Same thing over here, and same thing over there as well. And then we're getting somewhere. And I think I want to add in these details to the roofs. We did that last build for the pub, and I really love the way that turned out. So I think I definitely want to keep doing that for the other builds as well. So we'll have the little detail with the arches at the end, which just kind of adds that little bit of extra character to the build. There we go. Again, sometimes the snap points can be a little bit tricky. but in the end, we should get there. Might just have to fly around it a little bit sometimes, but there we go. We have the main roof of this section done. And then I guess we need to start worrying about filling in these sides. I guess this should definitely be above the bridge. But we don't know entirely for sure, so either we wait or we might have to change it later. Probably better to wait, I think. Alright, let's start on this section first. So basically, we're just gonna build this up as if it's a separate building with a separate roof. So the only thing we want to keep in mind is that this section is gonna end lower than where the other roof starts. Because otherwise, yeah, it's gonna get messy. But first, we'll build these little additions here at the back. Add in the new beams, because I kind of changed the layout now, of course. But that should be fine. And just like that, we can add them all in, and then some beams here at the end as well. And then we can also replace these for bigger arches. So we'll just get rid of these small ones underneath the new additions, and then there we go. We can add in the bigger supports to make this look nice and supported. Yeah, I think that will look nice. We'll bring some interest to these walls. Kind of the only reason to do all these little additions is, of course, to break up the build, add some interest. But yeah, it works quite well. I think it will work quite nicely here too. So we'll add these little sides in with a beautiful little window. I think we can use the little window here. I feel like that makes sense now. Maybe these would be little guard posts, like people could be watching from these windows to keep an eye out on who is approaching. Right, and then we'll fill in these middle parts. So the rest of the wall, we don't have to do that much anymore. Because we kind of already filled up most of it by these little additions. And then, of course, don't forget to make sure that we attach them all the way back into the main structure. And then we can add in the roofs. Probably going to use these settler roofs instead now, to kind of give that little bit of a different texture going on, which is always quite nice. And yeah, just makes it look a little bit more interesting than having the same roof everywhere. So we'll have these, and of course we'll add the eaves and the rakes to really get the best little look for these additions at the side. Yeah, I think that's starting to look quite nice. We'll add in these little things on the side as well. There we go. So we have two little additions, plenty of space between them. So yeah, I like the way that looks. And then I guess now we start adding in the last layer before we add the actual roof, because otherwise it will be too high because we're already getting close to the other one. So we'll just want to stop at the end of the pillar like this. That looks quite nice. And then I guess that is where the roof would start. Do we just start with the roof just to check maybe if the height is all right? Yeah, this should not get higher than the other roof, right? Because there's no way. We start below it and it's equal width, so it should be fine if we go up with two steep ones. There we go. That looks quite nice. So we have a little bit of depth in the roof as well by kind of offsetting both parts with that little half pillar. That is enough to make this look quite cool, I'd say. So yeah, that's gonna look quite nice. We want to, of course, add in the little overhang here, bring in that curve, and we also might want to add the outsides here. There we go. That one too. And yeah, this side is already starting to look quite nice, I think. That is starting to look like a proper cool building. Yeah, we probably also want to do the pillars or the beams going across the top here. See if it all fits. We probably want to do a small one there because that's going to be where the wall begins. There we go. And then, of course, we'll add in that little arch at the end too. There we go. And that looks quite nice. Quite nice indeed. And then slowly but surely, we're getting somewhere. We're not quite there yet. Also, I think adding a little roof above the window might be quite nice too. Yeah, I think that is a nice little addition. Maybe we'll do the same thing over here. That would make a lot of sense, right? To keep those things the same. There we go. Just that little bit of a roof. And then for this layer, we can also start filling in the walls. First, the bottom with the settler wood tier. Because that looks quite nice. We'll bring that going across. Do I want to build a little addition on this side? I probably do. Do I want to do that at this height? Or do I do it at higher? I think I do it higher because otherwise it's too similar to the other side. So we'll just keep it like this for now. And then I think what we'll do is maybe... maybe what do we do first? Do we do this wall first? I think we just want to have some windows at this wall. Even though this is quite a narrow street, I still think that makes sense. And we kind of wanted these narrow streets in the village to really get that experience from walking down this main street to being completely like enclosed with different buildings. Quite a cool little village atmosphere, I think. There we go. We'll just fill in these sections like this. And that looks quite nice already. And then we kind of just need these this top layer. But that should be quite easily done. We'll add some details above the window. And then we can keep it blank for the rest of it, I think. The rest of the way through this side. And there we go. That looks quite nice. So this means that we have both walls done. Then all we need is the end wall. But we can now also add in our lovely roof all the way. Actually, this does not need to be this roof. We need to go steeper to meet the middle of the top. There we go. We'll bring these across just like that. And of course, this layer as well. I don't think we're going to make any little additions or, yeah, intrudings on this roof. I think this looks nice enough as it is. And we'll just, yeah, get the little details in there. But we are getting somewhere now. This building is starting to come together. We definitely want to have the little ledge here. And of course, we want to have the little overhang on the end. There we go. That's looking quite nice. So all that's left is this layer here. Now, we might want to determine where kind of the floors are going to be. I kind of feel like this should be open because, well, one of the floors is probably going to start right here. And then that can cross into the other section over here, which would probably be someone's bedroom or office even. Quite an important little room at the top of this building. And that is a good start, I think. Let's see. Yeah, we can probably also bring up the chimney all the way now. That should be in place. There we go. That is looking quite nice. Yeah, that is a good place for the chimney, I think. Getting that roof broken into, and we already have the two layers of the roof there meeting, so I think that makes for an interesting enough roof on that side. And then we'll slowly start working on this side. Definitely think that we want to have some windows in here. Also might want to have something that kind of protrudes from the side. So maybe what we'll do is kind of right here, I think. If this is the ceiling layer, basically, so this is one of the layers of the building, which is going to meet up right here, then we might want to have a little addition to this floor, right? Because we have some additions to the other floors. Don't really want to break up the roof, so it does make sense to add those additions right here to this side, because then we can kind of just make a little box and we add a little window to it as well to really get that nice look going on, I think. There we go. That looks quite good. And then we'll just add Simple window there. And we'll build the box around it and bring it back into the main wall. But yeah, I think that works. Bringing just that little addition here on this layer, which will add its own little unique aspect to this part of the building. There we go. That looks quite good. And the little ledge, and that's all we can do. And then I think we can just start filling in the rest of the wall. We definitely might want to still have some windows beneath it, but at least for the top layer, that adds in a nice window there that we can walk up to and have a nice view on the outside. So we'll fill in the rest of this wall, so that section, and then we can have these right there, and then just filling in these remaining two. We don't really need too much going on there, I think. Calling enough. There we go. That's quite nice. And then just the one floor, but yeah, we probably do want to add a few windows here, right? I think that's definitely what we want. So let's start filling this in first. Fill in these behind there, and then I think we want to have the little pattern because we're going to have the windows underneath those. There we go. So we have... Do we want to have a big window? Big window could work, or maybe the rounded one. That could work as well. Yeah, that looks quite nice. And then we'll just have to fill in the middle wall. And then this building is starting to get there, like for real now. So we'll just fill in the middle two. And there we go. So that should be this side completed. And I think that means most of this building is now completed. We do need to fix the inside wall a little bit, but we can make a nice little entrance, and then we're pretty much at the bridge already, which is a good sign. So we'll kind of just follow this along all the way, and then we can have a nice little entrance here. Maybe we'll have two arches. We could change this around later if we do the interior. Maybe change it to a normal door if we think that is more suited for whatever we do on the interior. And we'll just fill in these walls because there's still a slight gap, of course. But with these, that should be completely closed and it should be a little bit nicer. But yeah, so far this build is going quite well, I think. I like the way this is turning out so far, at least. So yeah, we'll add in these last little sections to kind of fill in this wall, leave no gaps. Now that we know exactly what shape the roof in front of us is going to be, this is the easiest way to fit it in. And then for the bridge, we'll have to figure something out as well, because we pretty much finished this building. We kind of need the bridge to be able to be completely done with this one. So let's add in some of these sections. So I think we want to start quite similar to what we would normally do. I also think we want probably a nice big window here in the middle. I think that would be quite nice, so you can have a nice view when you're walking from one side to the other. And then I think we want to have a smaller window right about there, but we also want to get rid of those unneeded beams. But yeah, I think a little window right there, and then on the other corner would be quite nice. I think that's a good position to bring in plenty of light to this little bridge and give you plenty of spots where you can watch out kind of onto the approaching road or the road in the village, which yeah, should be nice. And then we just kind of have to fill in the gaps, which isn't too much, and then we're getting there for the bridge. Now we need to also, of course, figure out what the roof is going to be like. So we'll add in a little overhang here with the quarter ceilings. We'll do that on both sides just to give us a little bit more space for a nice roof design, which should hopefully work. So I think we'll use these ones, the settler tier. I think that's going to be quite nice. So we'll start with the normal roofs in the corners, and then we definitely want to build some kind of addition to the roof instead of just having a bland or normal roof. Probably maybe like a window to let in some light or something. Could look quite nice. So we'll fill in these steep pieces first, because I also want to make like a little bit of an opening in the middle to break up this little section. There we go. So if we take out these smaller ones, we should be able to fill in like this. Then we can slowly but surely make this little addition. There we go. That should look quite nice. We'll do the same thing here on the other side. Fill in these sections, fill in the corner pieces, and then we'll have this little roof poking out. And then all we need to do is add some window, probably. I think we want a window there. Also, yeah, we want to have the overhang as well, of course. We'll utilize every little bit that we can get. I think that is going to look quite nice. Same thing here on the other side, of course. Then we also want to have these at the end. There we go. Should look quite nice, giving it to the curve a little bit more. Same thing on the other side, of course. Just like that. Both of them. And then we're almost getting there. We kind of just need to fill in the wall sections for these little additions. And then I think we have almost completed this part of the build as well as the bridge. And then we just need the big part at the end. But we're definitely getting somewhere now, which is good to see. We'll definitely want to just continue the window, maybe like... yeah, kind of like this little round one. Because it's not really continuing the window since we're a layer forward. So just having the tiny little window I actually quite like. And we'll fill in the rest of the little details. And the same thing here of the other side, of course. Just filling in these little ones. And then we definitely want to add in some supports where they make sense, where they're not into a window. So we'll just add a few of those in. Same thing on the other side, of course, and then the other variant as well to kind of, yeah, make those weather effects wherever we can. There we go. We'll fill in a few that want to have the settler tier, and we'll do the same here. There we go. Can we fit it? There we go. And yeah, that's looking quite nice. That's the little bridge connecting one side to the other. Let's make sure that we have no mistakes. And maybe we'll have a beam across the top. We can't really do the detail here, of course, because it's between two buildings. But I feel like at least this will kind of bring it all together and make it feel like it's part of the same build. This is already starting to look quite nice, in my opinion. I quite like this little bridge section to the build. And then we, of course, need to fill in these walls as well. So we want to have some windows here. Same thing on the other side, I think, to bring in some light to whatever office or building is going to be on the top here. And then we kind of just want to fill in these remaining sections. Shouldn't be too difficult. Just a few more. And there we go. That is looking quite nice indeed. And then here on the inside, we need to change just a little bit to, yeah, make this connection official and replace those last little gaps. So probably want to go for one of these up here. One of them up there, and then we can have a nice little archway or something to enter into the bridge. I think that would make sense. Same thing we can do on the other side. As soon as we, you know, eventually start building that, we can have the little walls next to it. Probably nothing above because, yeah, that might depend on the exact thing we build. So we just want to fill in these last gaps. And there we go. That looks quite nice. We'll do the same thing over here. Although, maybe not actually, because we don't know what this wall is going to look like. So for now, let's just leave it as this. And then, yeah, we're getting quite close. I think I want to paint the roofs at some point. We definitely want to add in some pillars here. But yeah, this is starting to look quite nice indeed, with a few minor adjustments I think that we would like to add, but most of this already looks really nice. I think we might want to connect these with beams as well. That would be a little bit of an extra detail that we would love to add. There we go, just all the way across like so. Not too much of a problem, even though I'm still not familiar with all the snapping ways, but we're getting there. We're getting there. So yeah, there we go. We have this main little building, and now let's paint it. So for the roof, we want to have a greenish tint, maybe avocado. Yeah, that looks quite nice. Let's paint all of it. And we add in a few more little details on the roofs here above the bridge. Kind of just think I want to keep the same thing going. And it might actually look quite nice there too. There we go. Just want to add these little additions. Same over here. There we go. And then it's time for the last section of the build. And we're going to start quite similar, bringing up these pillars to be too high, and then we'll want to do something with nice beams and details for the bottom part, and then slowly building it all up. I think these ones are also going to be too high because, I mean, in the end, everything is going to be connected. I think we should probably start from this side. So we'll have the little ledge continuing, which is going to be the overhang, and we'll see how exactly we'll connect it. For now, I think we'll probably just bring this all the way across. That's I think that's probably gonna line up. We'll see. But yeah, that's gonna be the entire overhang, and then probably the first thing that we should do is stop saying probably, but also just making sure that we fill in these sections like we did for the other part. We just want to have some interesting designs with the beams here, and of course we need to snap from the half pillars to get the right height and for the beams going across, which means we got to go the other way again. There we go. And then we can kind of fill in some details here. We want to make the steep one go all the way. Same one over here. There we go. And then the middle we'll just fill in like this. There we go. And that should be it. Then we can fill in the walls. And yeah, that should already be quite a nice little design for that wall. We're probably gonna have an entrance over... No, I don't think we'll have it on the outside. I think we'll have the entrance definitely on the inside for this build. So that means we can just kind of fill in this wall all the way through. And then probably... I don't think we'll do it on the side. I think we'll do the entrance on the opposite side of this. But for now, let's fill in these patterns. Do we want to have a window there maybe? Or do we just continue? Maybe... we don't have a window. Do we need a window? Maybe not. It could be kind of like a storeroom or something here. So we'll just kind of copy the same design. Get those beams going across from one side to the other as well. And the same over here. And we might actually... no, we might actually, if we do this... we could have two little windows to the side and have the main wall in the middle be the same. There we go. We could have the windows here. I think that works. Then we want to continue these, of course, all the way to the bottom. And bringing out some of these beams this way. Probably the same thing here in the middle. Creating an interesting shape. And then we can start these beams from one corner to the other. There we go. And then these we want to make sure that continue all the way through. And the middle parts, I think we're just gonna do the same as what we did on the other side to keep some consistency, and then we can start filling in the walls with stone, and we just need to do all these missing pieces. There we go. Above the window, not there. Oh god. There we go, just like this, filling in these and then the sides, and then I think that is a pretty nice looking wall. Just like, oh, there we go. Yeah, that's quite nice. Want to have the beams at the bottom as well, of course, here on the outside, because otherwise it looks a little bit weird. But yeah, that should definitely work. And we can actually probably continue some of that here by having some of these pillars there. Pillars going all the way down. Just to kind of make this entrance a little bit nicer. We'll have some railings between those. But yeah, that's something. And then here we kind of want to just follow the outline. Just to check if this is actually going to work before we build the whole thing. But yeah, this should exactly fit. So that's going to be like a little side room. We're going to have some supports underneath. And that's going to be quite nice. I think for now, we probably want to make the entrance here on this side going into the main street. And then, of course, work or design around this. Which probably means we want to change the pillars on the corner for some different snap points. With some half pillars. Actually, probably half pillar, full pillar, half pillar again, right? That's what we've been doing for a lot of these. So I would assume we will do the same here. Because then we can kind of get those same kind of patterns going on. So we'll add in these beams on both corners. And there we go. Just filling those in. I don't think we'll add a window on this side because we already have the door. Don't want to do too much. So just this should work. Same beams over here. Oh, if it will let me get the points. But yeah, I think that's gonna look nice. Some big crosses, and then you probably want to have some kind of shape going on here. Just like that above the door makes sense. Do we add anything in between? Because we have some big squares still open now. Maybe we do add a window. Maybe the tall window could work. There we go. Yeah, that could work, right? That's all right. And then we just want to fill in the rest, and then we have this section done too. And then there's only one wall left before we start building up this structure all the way. There we go. That looks quite nice. Have the entrance all the way. There we go. Yeah, that looks good. So yeah, this is going to be quite a tall structure on this side. Slightly taller than the other building, I think. And we'll just first do a little design here. This is probably going to be quite similar to what we've done on the other side. Probably just the same pattern, actually. That might work. So first the beams, and then we'll add in all the diagonals to add in a little bit of detail. But yeah, I think that works. So we'll just take out the steep one and we'll bring it all the way down from that corner. There we go. Same thing over here. Just like that. And just like this. And then the middle one, we'll do the same thing. There we go. And then we can just fill in this entire wall. And that is already another wall done. Looking quite nice. And then we definitely need some supports for this side section, of course. And we kind of just need the supports everywhere around the main building. Because, yeah, we want to keep that nice theme going. Here, of course, there's definitely going to be some bigger supports as well. I think we want normal supports on these corners, but the rest is going to probably be the bigger ones. So we'll continue with the small ones first. Oh, bring them all the way around. Again, changing out some of them for the settler tier, just to make them a little bit more weathered. That looks quite good. And then we'll have some of the bigger supports for this section to really make sure that this side building feels like it's still being properly supported. Because, of course, it's quite a big side addition. So, yeah, we definitely want to have plenty of these arches. Plus, they do look really cool. I like the look of them a lot. So, yeah, we want to bring in a bunch of those. And from the pillars, we'll bring 2 back in, which is quite a cool shape. And then we definitely also want to have a little arch going from one side to the other here, just to get that full support and curves going, which should add some nice details to this little side bit, which probably will be like a, I don't know, you could park a dino there, you could have some storage there, whatever you want, but I think it's just a nice point of interest. So yeah, this side addition is probably not going to be too tall, because it needs to be less tall than the main building. The main building might have to be at least 3 tall to make sense, because it needs to be taller than, well, the other buildings, of course. So that should work quite nicely. It needs to be taller, but it doesn't need to be like too crazy in comparison. So maybe we do this like 1.5. That should work, right? I think that's probably a decent enough scale. And then I guess it's time to start working on this floor and make this all work. We'll raise this up by half more. I think that will be nice. Just to be sure, just to make sure that we have enough clearance everywhere. So we'll start with this little side addition, because it's just a tiny little build, and we should be able to do that quite quickly. Adding in the settler chair first. Kind of really love these structures. I love the wooden textures of the... I mean, I love all the textures in this mod, to be honest. They just look really, really fun. That's why I've been building so much in this, although it probably needs to get back to some other builds soon as well. But, you know, we're having fun. We want to make sure that these are aligned the right way. There we go. And then the main section, we're doing the same thing. We might as well do this for the whole... Oh, for the whole layer first. No, we want to make sure that they're all going the right way. Just like that. I mean, some of these we might, of course, replace if we decide to add any details. But for now, that kind of gives us an idea of what this shape is going to look like. And then we'll take it side by side again to create some interest. We might actually add a little addition here on this side already, just to kind of break this front up, because this is going to be facing the main street as well. So it makes sense to have something a little bit more interesting going on here. So we'll have these beams around. I might as well do them all the way around. Although, I mean, I might be doing double the work, because I might make some changes and having to replace all these. But for now, we'll just quickly go around and doing them. But yeah, especially in survival, you might want to wait with the beams until you finalize the design. There we go. We'll add in these beams. There we go. A few more of these half ones everywhere to make sure that this is all supported. And that looks done. So yeah, there's going to be a slight addition here just to kind of add that interest to the entrance side, which, I mean, that's probably one of the sides you'll see the most if you're walking through the village. So yeah, we want to make sure that is looking nice. As for the addition, I guess we can just kind of go into these side bits, and then we can have these here on the front to add some detail. We want to have probably a nice window there. For the other section, we probably want to have the windows in the middle to kind of mirror that. And then if we have these on the side, I think that makes for a quite nice, interesting section, and plenty of ways to look out on the main street and yeah, see the people walking by and stuff, right? That makes a lot of sense to me for a guard post. So we'll make these pillars the same height too, just to kind of get those in the right place as references, bringing up that skeleton. This, of course, we want to bring into the building, and then we can add a little roof above this side addition. There we go. And we'll add in the overhangs and overlaps and whatever everywhere too, just to kind of make sure that we have a nice little detail. But that already breaks up this wall quite nicely. And then for this next layer, actually no, but yeah, we do want to have a little, can we have a little roof? We should be, yeah. Should be able to have a little roof above these windows as well, even though they're like the thinner ones. We should be able to snap. And then that brings already quite a lot of interest to this layer. I think we'll just kind of continue this. Bring up these walls. Fill in the middle. Just like that. And I guess above this little addition, we want to have the quarter walls. And we can add in these patterns. There we go. That looks quite nice. And then we have one more layer, which I guess we can just maybe have a layer like this and then still have a layer of wood above it. That does make sense, I think. There we go. Yeah. Does that make sense? I think it does. I think we'll go for that. We'll add in these sections and that should give us the front of the building. I think we're happy with that. And then the sides are going to be quite easy. Well, this side is not much because we have a whole addition. So these walls are going to be quite simple at least. We'll just have this pattern going up. Then a little quarter wall and then the final settler one. So I guess we can do the other side as well, because that's also going to be quite simple because there's not a lot of wall left that we will visibly see, at least from the outside not. So we can bring these across and kind of fill in these other sections. Of course, we are going to fill in the rest of the wall as well, but we know there's not going to be any windows or additions or something like that because there's just no point and no room for it. So we'll add little quarter sections above here, other side as well. And actually, yeah, we can do these. Create a little bit of interesting patterns. And then we should be able to go into the settler tier for this top layer. There we go. Same thing on the other side. Bring those in here. And yeah, that's looking quite nice. It's a good start. And then I guess we'll also just fill in this middle section because, yeah, realistically, there's nothing else that we're going to do than just fill in the walls. We'll also add it here, but of course, there's going to be an actual addition here on this side, so it might be slightly different. But for this wall, we can probably just take out this one and get the right variant in and create a little bit of a nice pattern for the inside. Well, for the outside, I doubt you'll see much of it. This could be nice. Just like that. Yeah, that's fine. All right, we'll also go around the edge here at the top and create that little overhang for the roof eventually. Just as a reference point, because I think that will be nice to know for any additions we might want to build on the remaining side that does not have anything yet. Because of course we want to make every side as interesting as possible. So yeah, we definitely won't want to forget about that. But yeah, if we follow this edge, we actually want to maybe clear out this, because I do think I want to have an addition here. Because otherwise there's not a lot going on this side. And this is the front, the entrance, one of the entrances to the village. So I feel like that makes sense. And it might actually be like the main road-ish entrance. There probably will be a few other side entrances, but I feel like the majority would arrive in the town from this side, I imagine. There we go. We'll have two of these little additions. Fill in the beams, etc. And bring this all the way across. There we go. Can delete some of these arches and hopefully not delete anything that we still want to keep, because they seem to be tricky. Oh, well, Well, that didn't go great. I don't know what it is. I always go through them and straight up deleting the things that I want to keep. But hey, should be able to fix that quite quickly without too much trouble. So there we go. And yeah, we want to make sure that we have those supports. So I guess now we can have the bigger arches, but we want to make sure that we have all these beams in before we do, because otherwise we'll forget. Yeah, we'll have the big arches to support these additions that we're going to build, just like that. And then we'll fill in the other ones with the other variant. Same thing that we've been doing. You should know this by now. I just like the way that looks. Of course, you can use the same ones if you prefer a different look. But there we go. That should give us these little platforms and these little side additions. We're gonna kind of just build up like this. Have that in the middle. Do I want to make this out of these? Because I might want to use that pattern. That's actually quite nice. But do we build this out of the village here, or do we just go full wood? Because I think a little wood addition would actually be quite nice, and maybe we'll keep it open. Maybe this is where they could have like keep actual watch as well. Maybe, I don't know. Just, you know, it's just a small village. They just have these open windows and they watch the roads. I think that's what they do now. That's what I've decided. So that's what they do. So yeah, we'll have the steep roof here because we haven't had that yet, and this is a tall building, so we can actually get away with that, which should look quite nice. Then we can fill in all these sides just like this, and we can fill in the tops here. There we go, just like that. And we can do the roofs. Yeah, that's going to be a nice little addition here. So we'll make sure we do the overhangs as well, of course, on the sides. They should still be room between them, which is great. And then we want a little overhang, of course, on the front as well. Probably a little steeper like that. That would probably work best. There we go. Yeah, that looks quite nice. And it will definitely fill up a lot of this side of the wall as well, which is great news, because that just means, yeah, we have a nice and interesting looking wall right away without having to do too many new additions, which is good. Then we'll bring that all the way to the top. Here we're gonna have the layer of the settler wood again going across like that. And I mean, we can kind of just fill in the rest. It's not that tricky anymore. We'll have a big wall in the middle here. We can have maybe just that one there. And then we have a narrow one in the middle. Just like this. Filling in these remaining pieces. A little bit of a pattern. And yeah, there we go. That should be all of it. And that looks quite nice, I think. So we're getting somewhere. We're definitely getting somewhere. It's definitely starting to look quite nice. Of course, we've painted half the building. We are definitely also going to paint these roofs. But it starts to look like a cool entrance to the village for sure. It's definitely getting close to what I had imagined. So let's add in the arches again for the roof section. And we also still need to do the little addition, of course, on the other side. But well, we're definitely slowly but surely, well, definitely slowly. It's a big build. It takes a little bit to build, but I think it's going to be nice. I think it's going to be great. So yeah, we'll add in some of these arches and then, of course, do the other variants to do the rest of it. And just kind of go along. Oh, God. Why do I keep doing this? Please. There we go. Yeah, I'll just go along and fill in the rest of these arches. Just like that. All the way around. Nice and easy. There we go. Actually, the perfect height for this build. Because it's just higher than the little roof of the bridge. Which is great. There we go. So yeah, we have that section left. And then, of course, we have the roof section left. But we're definitely getting a nice build in now. There we go. So for the roof, I think the roof is going to be quite simple. So I think I'm doing the roof first. We'll start with these corners. So basically it's going to be like, not really a tower roof, but at least it's going to be like all the corners are going to come in. So it's going to be a different kind of roof than we've had on all the buildings so far. And then we can build those across, I think, for sure. All the way on every side to kind of bring in the roof. And then we're probably going to go steeper for the middle, of course, to still kind of create that curve. But we also might make sure that we have the roof face all the different directions. So if we take out these ones, we might start with these corners again, of course. That already brings in a little bit of the curve, going a little bit steeper, like with all of the buildings. I just really like that curve for these builds. There we go. And then we could just go across like this. But we could also just have some nice windows or whatever's on each side and create a little bit more interest. So, for example, if we remove this one, we could have, where is it? The corners everywhere. And there we go. Yeah. That already gets us quite a nice thing, I think. Just like that. And then we'll have the roofs connecting each other. There we go. Just like that everywhere. I guess technically you could also choose that you want to do it on some of the sides, not all of them. But I think it's going to be quite nice having it just on all of them. Because we could have some of them be windows, and we might even be able to use a clock in one of them. And then instantly we have a little clock tower in the village. Why not? That would be quite cool. Just a nice little clock tower. And then, of course, at the top on there. There we go. That's quite nice, I'd say. Yeah, we can still have the beams going across these sections, I think. Yeah, there we go. There we go. So yeah, we'll have to have these little half ones. If it will let me, of course. There we go. We'll do that on all sides. And then we can do still the little decoration that we normally have on the roofs, but then we'll do it for all of them, which should look quite nice. So we'll bring out the overhangs, of course, to finish this build. Well, not the build, but the roof. Get those little details in. There we go. And yeah, that looks quite nice. We can start filling in these roofs now. Or well, the walls actually of the roof. We'll definitely want to have a clock on one of the sides, I think. So probably what we'll do is have the clock on the side that faces the village, so that they could use that as a clock to tell the time. Because it makes more sense than having it facing the outside. Because then, well, I mean, you know the time when you arrive, but I feel like it's more important to have it on the inside. There we go. We've got a lovely little clock that we can use right here. Perfectly fitting, and then fill that last little bit in, and then the rest is definitely just going to have a little window, of course. There we go. Yeah, and then the rest we can definitely just have windows to fill in the rest. Bring in a little bit of the light. Which one should we go for? Yeah, the arches feel about right. There we go. All the way around, and that kind of finishes up this top of the building. That looks quite cool. It is definitely a little bit taller than the other structure, which is exactly what it was meant to be. So we'll definitely have some beams across, finish out these little details, and then all that's left is the little side addition, of course. But yeah, this is looking quite nice. So we'll fill in these sides as well. There we go. And then we'll yeah, we'll have a little addition of these roofs, which always looks quite nice. There we go. Perfect. Same thing over here. And over here. Awesome. There we go. For this side edition, I think we definitely want to have a big window here in the middle. That makes a little sense to me. And then it's kind of just filling in the rest of the walls. Nothing too crazy. We might have some windows here on the side as well, to be honest. There we go. So we could have some tall windows. Or some small ones. Maybe the small ones would be nice. And then we just fill in this last section. I don't think we want to make these walls any much higher, because the roof still needs to fit inside. So probably if we start with the roof here. Is that gonna fit inside? Because we have now the normal ones, and then we go a little bit steeper. But yeah, we have some room. So yeah, we'll continue these. Just like that. And yeah, this should go the steeper one, and then it should fit, right? Because if I start steeper earlier, it's going to be too tall. It's kind of hard to some guys guesstimate how tall these steeper ones are going to end up. Yeah, but this is perfect. Because it just underneath the other roof. That's fine. That's totally fine. So yeah, we can fill in the little overhang, and we can fill in the walls, fill in the inner wall, and then we're almost there. It's a big build. It's definitely a big build, but we're getting somewhere now. We're really, really almost there. So we'll have this curve out a little bit more, which is always a nice little touch. And then for this final part, we definitely want to have that above the window. Oh yeah, that is looking good, isn't it? We want to have it here. No, that might be a bit too much, right? Because kind of connects with the roof, which I don't think is something we want. So let's not do it there. But that is looking very nice. And then all we need to do is fill in the rest of this, which should be quite easy. Just filling in these walls. No, we need to change to the right pieces, of course. Fill in. There we go. This one too, please. There we go. Awesome. And then, yeah, just one more wall. And then we have that little addition done. And then the inside, I guess, is the last part that we need to fix. So that we have, I'm guessing, a little room to the side, which would make the most sense. So we have a little entrance, a little door, little doorway into this room, which could be like some kind of office or whatever, I don't know. But yeah, definitely want to have a little separate room there at the end. And then we can just kind of fill in this wall. Do we want to have the wall start with a little bit of the settler wood as well, just as the other sections have? I think that makes sense, right? I think it does. And then I guess we kind of just want to fill in this wall. Maybe first we do this section so that it's all the same height. Actually, maybe one more, because then it's the same height as the rest of the build. And what do we do? Maybe just a blank one in the middle, yeah. And then there's two sections left. Now, we don't really want to follow the walls. We just want to make sure that this wall's filled in. There we go. Probably want to keep this quite simple. Maybe like that. And then there's just a sliver left. What we should fill in. Just the normal ones probably will do. And there we go. That should fill that section in. And that should give us a pretty nice build. Yeah, this is the end result with the painted roofs as well. So this is a nice little guard post. I hope you enjoyed building along. I really love the way this one turned out. It's definitely a big build. It should give you plenty of space on the inside. And yeah, it's a really cool addition to the town, I think. The town is definitely starting to come together, or the village. And yeah, can't wait to see what's next. If you enjoyed this video, of course, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And of course, feel free to leave suggestions for future builds down in the comments below. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I hope to see you in the next video or stream. For now, goodbye.